discuss. I mean, this is a time
It's
for
really
our parents, say whatever thoughts you have. Feel free.
so really it's sometimes that I feel as a parent that we don't go into the why enough. So when we look at President Elliott's comments here related to parents as partners, sometimes I personally, as a parent, feel that I'm very much talked down to. Like when I get my initial yearly information from the school, it's telling me how to put my child to bed at the right time to make sure that they are up and refreshed and ready for school.
Okay.
And so while I'm being talked to in that fashion, I'm not being treated as a partner. I'm being parented by the school district, and I don't want that. So, what I think that, and this is only because my background's in occupational health and safety, and we always have to do root cause analysis, which is like five whys. Why is this happening, and why is that happening until you get really to the roots. And so, when we look at any of the things that are on here, sometimes I think that when it's put like, well, parents don't seem to know this, this, and this, or we need to educate them on this, this, and this. Sometimes I think we haven't gone deep enough in the why. Why didn't they know? Like, why weren't there is some barriers here? It's not that we don't want to know, but there's some barriers that are stopping us from moving forward. And so, um, I didn't have a specific point on it, but just if we're always trying to use a kind of more structured methodology as to how did we get this disconnect in partnership, then we can probably restore it in a more complete way.
Thank you. And I truly appreciate that. Like I said, this is great. And a lot of these courses here, these are just things as we were talking with other parents, they wanted to know more about. And we found, again, why don't they know more about it? And as we have MTSS, that's why Lisa Montanero, Colleen, Tyler are here today to give you an overview, to let you know that this is a course that we want to have, to talk to you, to explain to you what MTS is, because that's something that we see in our department, that a lot of parents are like, we don't understand this, we don't know this, we want to be more informed. We're partners with you, so we need to know what's going on as well too. So thank you. All right, so I think Mr. Eagle's next.
Thank you. As it relates to a professional learning work plan for parents, you had mentioned that this this parent group is connected to the Build Strong Community Task Force, which of course is one of 4 task forces that are part of the REAL team, the Racial Equity Advocacy Leadership Team. And as you know, a big discussion has been that we need anti-racist education for everybody in the system. And so I didn't see that in here, but I would think that that's something parents would be interested in. And you have mentioned a book. I know the district has purchased, I'm assuming, a large number of books that deal with anti-racism. Everyday Anti-Racism, I think, is the name of the book, and it's being distributed to people who are part of the REAL team now. So maybe this is something that parents would be interested in having if you have enough of those. So that's a suggestion.
Could you please say the book again, Mr. Eagle?
The name of the book is Everyday Anti-Racism, and it is edited by Mika Pollock, Pollock. And I know the district has already purchased,
Yes.
I believe, a large number of these books.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And so I just want to make sure I'm putting everything correctly, what everyone says here, because again, we want to see what we do to build on this. So you said it would be great to offer PD on that, on the topic, and connects to REAL team as well. Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay, so
Hi.
yes.
Hi, I had my hand up. To go back to what Ms. Laura Smith and President Elliott spoke about, I would want to add in there that it's not necessarily, we can't go off the assumption that parents don't know. When you say why, it's not like a one size fits all partnership, because sometimes for myself, when I was finishing my undergrad and then had a late night job and I had to pick my child up and bring her home, she couldn't get to bed at a decent hour. So I would just like to say, we don't operate off the assumption that parents don't know, but that maybe their circumstances don't allow for it. And then also with the comment Mr. Eagle just made about anti-racism, I feel that's very significant. My 14-year-old has informed me that she has not had one class touch on Black history, and we're halfway through February. Those are just 2 quick points I wanted to address.
Thank you.
I would like to
Great.
speak.
Who was next, Ms. Taylor? You can just call off. Who's next?
Me.
Okay.
Dr. Black.
International airport made some major upgrades.
Okay.
So forgive me for being off camera, but I just wanted to add, and I think the last contributor just shared, we have to recognize that we have such a wide range of parents. And part of what we have to continue to do is honor what our wide range of parents both need and want to bring to the table. And I think that we have a lot of work to do in that space. And so as we have one contributor saying, hey, we got to give parents some tips on how to be ready for school, we have another parent saying that that might not be the thing that they want to hear from us. And so as we continue to collaborate, we got to continue to be aware of the wide range of parents that we get to serve and how one size doesn't fit all, like the person ahead of us just said. And so I appreciate the diverse opinions that are showing up, because as a district, we also have a wide range of babies we get to educate and serve. And so there just is something I want to just continue to highlight, that even if something doesn't fit for one group of parents, it might fit for another group. And we have an obligation to do a lot for all of our parents. So I just appreciate the space.
Thank you. All right. So this is great stuff. All right. Who's next, Mrs. Taylor?
Go ahead.
President Elliott?
No, I was just going to say Ms. Curry was next. She's had her hand up for a long time.
I was going to say that. Sorry.
Ms. Curry.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I actually would like to piggyback what I'm sorry, I can't remember all y'all names. I'm trying to scroll through this thing, but the first young lady and the second young lady, in regards to this, I am a parent who is going through all of these situations. My children are mixed. They've been in the Wilson incidents in the last 2 times. I've been the parent who's broken up a lot of fights on that courtyard. I'm going to tell you that all of these are good things, but as the second young lady spoke, it's the root. I have not been able to get any of this information, for there's such a resistance when you want the information. So these groups are good, but now you have to teach me the code of conduct for the teachers and the school district. That's what we're having a problem with. If I can't get my kid to school and I come and I allow the school to know that I'm having a situation, there's a certain kickback that you're giving. Being a single mother in this district is not respected. So I'm a parent who is very involved, and I am banned from the school. So what is the alternative from that? I go to the city school district, and people who are in here who are advocates for us can go no further than the person that's in charge of them. The real problem is that we don't know how to deal with the school. So we're parents fighting a system told that we're not involved. I only got this meeting at 3:00 yesterday. So I think it's more of, we don't have the info. It may be there, but the way that you guys are getting it out to us, I had to go on a Facebook Live and curse and act like the angriest Black woman to get people to actually hear me. And I'm not fighting for just mine, I'm fighting for everybody's. But in this, I have an IEP issue where I have a child who's not been to school since November because of the violence. I have my children are mixed, they are racial, they are indicating to me that the school in itself is racially, they all segregated. And because they are not of one race, they are considered weird. So a lot of these things that you are talking about are good, but getting parents involved when the district is actually who's pushing us away, this sounds good, but how are we going to forge through, and what are the people in here? The teachers are afraid to talk. I get anonymous phone calls. Security's afraid to talk. What is it that's preventing the school from being transparent with us? These are good, and I'd like to learn, but I need to learn the code of conduct for teachers. I need to learn my rights are for that there's actual legal group out there that helps us when there's suspensions put on us. These kids want to go to school and they want to learn. It's the adults who are preventing them from being able to do so. I think I wanted to just put that in there because I see all of this as good for the parents, but we don't know that any of this is happening. I'm a regular parent who works, so I don't see any of this. And until I made a big outrage on Facebook, I didn't even have this connection to this community action. So I think it is for a select group of people. And I'm here to be the normal person to let you know that I'm not sure how you're getting the information out, but we're not getting it. And when we are reaching out to the school district, they are not informing us that you are groups that are out here advocating for us. I can tell you, I literally just left City School District asking the parent liaison who I'm supposed to go to when they are the problem. So communication is the biggest thing. You guys have to restore the communication to the parents, us parents that y'all don't like, us parents of the bad kids, us parents of the ones who don't feed our kids, because there are parents out here who want to be in a part of it. And I volunteer my time. So I took off of work. So I think that's the real issue, is us parents are already pegged as people who don't want to participate. So when we come in and we're finally at that stage of advocating, we're considered angry Black parents, angry Black people. And that's how I've been deemed. The ban letter for me says that I was violent, I was threatening. So I can't see any of this that you're posting up here until you bridge that communication with why all of us parents are getting banned from the school. We can't even participate in what you have going on here until we're able to actively participate in our kids. I see this as a start, but this is a program coming in that the school allows. What about us parents? Let me come in and advocate for my own child. Do you see what I'm saying? We are being pushed out because we don't talk as professional, or we don't have the financial means, there's a lot of safety issues that came up. Everything that you have here looks good to me, but we can't even start there because us parents can't even talk to the schools. So what do we do in this incident? Like, I like everything you're doing. I would like to learn things, but I need to know what my rights are as a parent and what the teacher's rights are for disclosing information to me. I mean, later on, somebody will probably get to me with these incidents at Wilson, but I'm just telling you, that's the main route. I am so frustrated at this point to where I'm joining a community action program because I've been blocked at the school on the ground level. So what are we going to do to burst through these school doors and be active parents? Because they're not allowing us to be. Sorry for being so long-winded.
No, let me tell you something, Ms. Curry. I just want Dr. Black talk. I just want everybody to know.
Hang on, Dr. Black.
Huh?
Hang on, Dr. Black. Hang on.
Okay, wait 1 minute, Lisa. I just want everyone to know that this is a safe space. This is a time for us to talk about this. That's what we call these action planning meetings. So never feel like, I'm sorry, I talked too much of this and that. No, there's no judgment here. This is why we're here. So we can work on what are the next steps? That's what this says right here. So don't feel like that, Ms. Curry, or anybody, okay? We don't want you to feel that way. All right, Dr. Black.
Okay, so I'm gonna be short because you know how I can be. A few things. I put into the chat for the parents in this room a couple of questions. How do you all want us to engage you? So different than how we engage you from our vantage point, what are the things that parents want us to do to engage them? We need those ideas. Second thing is I being new-ish and Kelly being new-ish to the parent involvement aspect of the world, we need to hear where there are challenges happening in getting access to information, getting access to adults, getting access to responses. We as a district have an obligation to figure out how to fix that pretty quickly, but we need to hear it. And so it does mean contacting your principal. If you're not getting the right resolution from your principal, going to your chief. If you're not getting that, going to parent involvement. If you're not getting it there, going up the ladder. And I know that is frustrating, but for me, it's good for me to hear right now that there are a lot more things happening that I don't know about, that I need to know about so we can mitigate it. So again, in the chat, there is a how do you want us to engage, and then hear very clearly that I hear as a member of our team that we should do something different to get information from you all about what's happening. And I heard very clearly, Ms. Curry, that you are getting anonymous things and that you are hearing that people are afraid. And that is not the environment you want to continue to foster. So know that I have received that, and that we will work diligently to figure out how to mitigate that so that we can do better in service of the babies we get to serve. I'm sorry, the young people we get to support and serve. So duly noted, but please respond in the chat about how you want us to engage you all, because that is as important as how we think we should be engaging. Part of the work is hearing what parents need from us, and we need to hear that. So I just, again, appreciate the sharing. And now, Kelly, I'm really going to be quiet and listen for the rest of the time.
No, that's great. Thanks, Dr. Black, because this is, again, this is a work in progress. And, we did start, and I know we have other people have to talk. I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to talk. We did start, Ms. Curry and everybody, that was our next action item, is improving communication with parents, because that's what we found was the last one. And so what I just started doing was adding in, I put your comment there, Ms. Curry, and we want to put everyone, because I put your name, the ideal concern recommendation, but I want to go to what are our next steps? Because again, we want to really work to see what we need to improve here. So just want to let you know that I am capturing that as we are talking, okay?
I inboxed something. I don't know how to work this really, so I think I sent it to the doctor.
Okay. All right.
But if I can throw it out here, I'd like to start, if you guys start with just the parents who are banned from the school, somebody accumulate a list and start talking to us. We went to the school and we were banned for a reason. It will give you an indication to maybe our kids were the bad ones, maybe we were the good ones. What were we missing that we got so angry and went to that? Start there. Start with us, because we got so much information, and there's a reason that we're banned from the school. So if we start with just those parents, because those are the parents we're probably talking about. They don't have food. They haven't had the resources. My child has missed school since November. Nobody has reached out to me, and she has an intense IEP. So just starting with the people that we already know are in trouble, if you just start there.
Okay.
All the students from Wilson, like, why didn't we start there?
All right. All right. We're going to go on because we want to make sure everybody gets a chance. And I also have Lisa Montanaro and Ryan who want to present, because our time goes by fast. Okay. All right. Lizelle, who was next?
Well, I have, is it Billy, and then Miss Hetherington, and then Miss Demas?
Okay. All right. All right.
So
Okay.
Billy, can you unmute and go ahead and
type mine? I was actually typing my response in.
I was trying to get to you.
I do agree definitely with Miss Curry is saying. I really do. I was going to say the same thing she was saying, that she was frustrated. You can hear it in her voice. And because when you go up to a school and you're a caring and involved parent, a lot of times because of society thinks that you're supposed to be coming from a two-family home, or because that's the society norm, and we're in the city. So, and that happens everywhere. It's not always a two-family home, but sometimes when you go into a school, they think because you're not coming from that normal environment, they're already looking down on you as a parent, and looking down on you as what your parent skills are and what your situation is. And everyone should not just be judging people based on that, which unfortunately we have that. So I'm one of those parents like Miss Curry. I'm going to go in that school and I'm going to say, this is how I feel as a parent. And I want to know why, what happened, who was there, whatever the case is. I'm one of those forceful parents also. And it could be looking down as, oh, you're an angry Black parent or angry Black woman, or you're like that because you're a single parent, or where's the father? That's none of your business. I'm coming up here concerning my child. So that's a whole different dynamic in itself. So when you do go up there as a parent, you do get that pushback from staff, from whoever, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's the parent liaison, because they're looking at your situation and judging you based on what they see or what they hear from what your situation is, but not trying to give you any support and answer the questions that you need or guide you in the right direction for you to get an answer to the questions you may have to be able to assist your child. So I definitely feel what Ms. Curry is saying, because that's I'm one of those parents. I'm definitely one of those parents. And because you're not from suburbs, or you're not talking in a proper fashion that they feel that you need to speak in, they looking at you totally different. And I don't think that anybody can tell me how to be a parent, because nobody came with a parent book saying this is how you need to do their child, because everyone's child in every situation is different. So I definitely feel what Ms. Curry is saying, and I feel what everyone else is saying, but I think that the school need to have more. I don't know if they have like a diversity class, a cultural diversity class or something of that nature, that you can be well-rounded as a constituent or Rochester City School District, anyone in that field that can relate to any type of situation that we have out here with different parents dynamics. I don't think it's just one-sided. I think everyone should be included, definitely the parents, because we're home with our kids and these are our kids. And we're sending them to the city school district to get a good education. And we want to make sure we're also getting the support that we need as a parent. So I think a lot of times you do get frustrated because you're not getting that support you need. You're always getting this pushback. So you're like, okay, who do I need to talk to now? So I do believe in going in the chain of command, but it does get frustrating, but you don't stop as a parent. So I do want to encourage Ms. Curry, don't stop, because I could feel it. I could feel that in you, that you are one of those caring parents that want the best for your children. Don't stop. Like Dr. Black was saying, and like President Cynthia Alfie was saying, just go chain of command and just keep pushing. Don't give up. It's very frustrating when you're doing it by yourself, because I'm a single parent also. So I'm doing it for a second time around. So don't give up, because we as parents do have to stick together, and we do have to keep doing what's best for our kids. We can't give up, but we just need to have that support from the city school district and everyone that's involved. And I think that we need to have more of that and more communication, definitely the communication part, because I'm a big communicator. So I think that's a big piece that's missing.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jones. All right. We can take a couple more that we want to go into. And I do have that typed up and taking the notes. I just want to take a couple more people, then I want to go into our quick presentations if we can do that.
Hang on. Ms. Hetherington is next, and then Ms. Dumas.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you, Billy and Ms. Curry. My name is Rebeccatherington, and I'm part of the PLAC leadership, the Parent Leadership Advisory Council, and I'd love to connect with you specifically about what you're talking about. Because the truth is that you shouldn't have to climb a ladder in order to get your kids basic safety at school. Kicking parents out of school should come with some process and not just a letter in the mail. There are a number of things that I was like sitting on my hands as you were talking, because you are highlighting every single reason that I got involved in PLAC. We're coming up to our 1-year anniversary at the end of March of our bylaws being approved, and building a parent coalition of parents in the district who can come together and fight for our kids. When we talk about communication, the district has more ways of communicating with parents than there are parents in this district. It could come from teachers, it can come from principals, it can come from, you should not have to go to a board member in order to get a newsletter from your school. There is no accountability. There are plenty of ways that the district can communicate home. You can send me a text message. You can give me a phone call. If you haven't heard from me, call me. You have all of my numbers. If those numbers don't work, come to my house. You know where I live. Send me an email. Like, there is Facebook Messenger, like tracking people down and making sure that we are communicating with our parents is one of the most frustrating aspects of the work we have been doing. And making sure that schools are being honest and open about the parent communications that they are having, because they are not. And it is very, very frustrating. There needs to be, beyond communication, there needs to be accountability for communication. Please, I am begging you, Dr. Black, I hope that I am not overstepping by saying the first thing you need to do is hold your administrators within your school communities accountable for the communication that they should be already making to homes. And if I get asked one more time how often I get a newsletter from school, I'm going to lose my mind. So with that, I'm going to just like cede the floor back. But I appreciate the gathering. I just want to make sure that we are taking those steps forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Taylor, who's next? And then we're going to go.
Ms. DeMoss?
Okay.
That's okay. It's really just echoing a lot of the sentiments of the last three parents, so I can wait.
No, please go, Ms. Dumas. Is it Dumas?
Well, no, I mean, just really speaking as a parent who's had to continually advocate for my child at several schools. And my concern is, what do you do, as Ms. Hetherington just mentioned, accountability? What do you do when you run into the teachers that are not being held accountable? It's not always the students. And as a parent, several times I've run into instances where I've said, like, who do you have teaching my child? Why is this person able to, someone touch my daughter's hair without her permission, a man, a white man, and I took that as a microaggression. How about telling her when she's having a conversation about Black Lives Matter, that all lives matter, bringing political views into the classroom. And then when I go and meet with people and make my presence and my concerns known and felt with my words, I'm told, okay, we're gonna address this, we're gonna discipline it, and that's the end of it. And this person is still there and doing God knows what damage to these young minds that they have so much influence over. And this has happened at several schools in the district, things that just should not be allowed or tolerated. But I know these teachers have tenure. I know the teachers union, so where do we go when Ms. Curry said, where do we go when you're the problem? The person I'm supposed to come to is the problem.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Dumas. I took all of that. And Ms. Smith, I just took your stuff from the chat as well too. This is a session for our parents. So whatever we have to not get to and pause to, because this is important, this is what we need. So just want you to know how much we appreciate this. All right, were there any other hands raised before we go to Ms. Montanaro, Ms. Tyler? Okay, all right, just come right here. Come here. All right, so Ms. Tyler, Ms. Montanaro, sorry, I am babysitting my niece. So just sit right here, say hi, say hi.
Hi.
All right, so Mrs. Montanaro and Ms. Tyler, sorry, would you like to give your time on MTSS? I know you did send the PowerPoint. Do you have it with us?
I do. I just need you to make me a co-host if you don't mind, and as well, Colleen.
We'll do that right.
That'd be great.
Stop. Okay. You said hi all. Y'all go back in there. Go back in the room. I'll share it for you, Mrs. Montanaro, because I can't make you a co-host right now. So I'll just pull up the slide that you sent me.
All right, and I will keep this brief, and being also responsive to a lot of what was shared here today. It's my understanding that the reason Kelly asked us to share is that it was an outcome of a previous meeting with parents, just wanting to know, and I know in education we do throw around a lot of acronyms. So an MTSS it stands for multi-tiered system of supports. What does that mean? Basically, it's a framework of how to get things done. And when I say things, what I refer to, and I don't know if somebody can mute because there's sound in the background. I don't know if that's you, Kelly.
No, it's not. So let's see here. I'm just going to ask that everybody mute.
I think I know who it was. So thank you. So what an MTSS, multi-tiered system of supports framework is it's really about how to get things done in the field of education. I would argue the field of education is exactly where this fits nicely. And if you're not able to get the PowerPoint up, I'm going to give it to you as simply as I can. There's 6 ways of doing business in education. I firmly believe that. It starts with leadership. That's one of the 6 components. The second is around capacity building and infrastructure. What I mean by that is, what are the systems and structures that are happening when it comes to education? The third is around communication and collaboration. I heard a lot of that today, and that's an important part of a strong MTSS framework. The fourth is around data. There's a lot of data that we look at, whether it's student data, attendance data, behavior data. The fifth is around problem-solving processes. And the last is multiple tiers for instruction and intervention. Colleen, I know you and I kind of went back and forth. This is a logo that I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about in detail. Those 6 components that I just mentioned are the circles on the outside, and I'm going to let her explain a little bit about what's on the inside.
Yeah, so like Lisa just said, those components are around the outside, and we developed this graphic because it shows how they are linked together and they overlap with one another. They're not standalone components, and they're important 6 components for not only for schools to use, but also a school district. As Lisa said, we're definitely doing communication and collaboration right now. It's a very important component across the district. And then in the center of those components, we want to make sure that we're still elevating certain elements such as the curriculum, the assessment, how are our systems working in the buildings and in the district. We're ensuring equity. We are working very closely with that department with ensuring equity across the district. And here we are working on community building and also part of the attendance. So this graphic really encompasses all of that in that framework. It's not just within a building, but across all of that. So parents would fall under the community aspect. So true, parents would fall under community and ensuring that they are part of that as well.
And I want to also add, this is not an all-inclusive list. I think that's what makes an MTSS, or that framework that I mentioned. If you think of it like this umbrella, that's how we oftentimes will explain it to different groups of people that we're working with. There's response to intervention, the small or large groups that we're working with students. There's social emotional learning, there's behavioral and restorative practices. There's so many elements that fall under somewhere in these 6 components. The feedback that you're providing us today is exactly what we are doing with different stakeholder groups within the district as well. And you'll see in the center, it's a shared responsibility between schools, district, and I would argue family, community engagement, because that's, again, you can't have one group trying to manage and lead without including the voice of others. And so I think, this is our way of bringing that attention to the work that we've started. MTSS is not a new concept. It's actually been around in terms of the language of it since 1996. It's really about helping all students, having an impact for all students, socially, emotionally, behaviorally, and academically. This particular logo that I'll let Colleen talk a little bit about is meant to just give you another visual of what tiered supports. And I know sometimes we go right to, well, we're talking about the students who might be struggling. I would argue we're also talking about the students who need the enrichment as well, and every student in between.
And this particular triangle would fall under under multiple tiers of instruction and intervention of tiered supports. And it's not just about academics, it's focusing on behavior and social emotional learning. At the bottom of the pyramid is what all students should be receiving. It's called Tier 1. So all students should be receiving quality instruction, scaffolded supports. They all should be involved in flexible groups within all of their classes. Their curriculum should be aligned with the standards. It should be a proactive support system, which sounds from this conversation is something that needs to be worked on. And differentiated instruction should be part of all as well. So if students are not at the level of the standards, they should be receiving a differentiated instruction component. The middle tier, what we call tier 2, is only supposed to be for some of the students. It's a supplemental targeted intervention to fill those gaps where they need it in their standards. Their schools should have a problem-solving team to address these needs. And Lisa and I have been meeting. We have a liaison in every building, and currently we are meeting with all buildings. We started 2 weeks ago and will carry through after the break to see how their problem-solving teams, if they're established, are they meeting, are they discussing students, do they have behavior support plans? So that is something that we're trying to collect data on to work on a streamlined process. It's across the district. And then tier 3 should only be some students. It should be intensive. It could be individual, we say individual, or in very small groups of up to 3. And it's in addition to tier 1 and tier 2. A student should not only be receiving tier 3 instruction, because all students should be receiving their tier 1 core instruction, and tier 2 and tier 3 are in addition to that. And again, that's with academics, with behavior, as well as with social emotional learning.
So just to piggyback, I am monitoring the chat, and, you know, as Dr. Black said, you know, MTSS does include all, and when we say all, we mean students, we mean parents, we mean other support providers. This work is very much in the beginning stages, although the language of MTSS is not new. Our work, our role and responsibilities is bringing alignment. I think the fact that Kelly invited us here today as an outcome of people asking to know more about it is our way of at least trying to inform and bring awareness and an understanding. And it's not a one and done. It can't be. As Colleen said, we have liaisons in every building. We're connecting with administration, not only at the central office level, but at the building level as well. And I know that the work that Kelly has done in terms of parents and community is why she is playing an integral role in connecting us with people. So the feedback that people are providing, I cannot thank you enough. Both Colleen and I are very appreciative of any way that we can strengthen and grow the work that we are doing. And so I would say in closing, if there are other questions that weren't noted in the chat, if anybody wanted to ask them, I want to make sure that, yeah, the language is important, and the connections that we're trying to make is bringing alignment and awareness when it comes to the language of what a multi-tiered system of supports. If I wanted to leave you hopefully with something is, you know, maybe not memorizing what those 6 component areas are, but maybe attaching at least some or all of those components. Communication and collaboration is huge to us right now. Leadership, huge to us right now. Capacity building and infrastructure, those systems and structures that are happening from building to building, from central office to building, from the district to parents and community. That's all a part of those infrastructures. But it is about the framework getting stronger so that we can manage what's happening between a district level and building level. There are 3 other components I didn't go into great detail about, but they are there as well. Multiple tiers of instruction and intervention, data and evaluation, and problem-solving processes. So I do thank you for allowing us the opportunity to just give you, I feel like it's a commercial or a snapshot. I know it's not in great depth. But I do appreciate the voices that I heard, not only before we had a chance to share, but during the actual sharing that we were providing.
And thank you, Ms. Sorry.
No. I would just, you know, I just want to add, I'm kind of going through the chat a little bit. I don't know if Lisa or Kelly, we could show the presentation and show the slide with the circle chart on it.
Oh, I closed that out. I won't be able to.
Did you close it out? Yeah. We do have another graph. So I just wanted to say a little bit more just in reading through some of what's in there is another chart that we show, another graphic that we show. So the critical components are the systems of the MTSS, but there is one that focuses on how it narrows in on the whole child. You look at the academic, social, emotional, and behavior, but surrounding the child are all the other elements that are part of that system. So whether it's enrichment after school programs, before school programs, it's the parents and community and the stakeholders. There is another one that we do show that are all the parts that touch our students throughout the day, from the start of the day till after the end of the day. Those are also all part of the whole system that affects our students. So the components are the systems, but then how do they apply to what is touching our students throughout the whole day as well?
Okay, and I thank you so much, Ms. Montanaro, Mrs. Montanaro, Mrs. Tyler. And again, we just wanted to have them explain it briefly, but we know that, it's going to take some time. It's a lot, as Dr. Black put in the chat, we're just getting started. So we want to have a series of workshops where you can sit and learn each component, not where you're going to get it all in one setting, but little by little to talk about this, because we know that it's a lot to digest. And so this is why we want to start to have these conversations, but then as we're doing the actual work, the training and learning about it, we also get the input from parents in the chat. I'm sure this data is going to help a lot of us from hearing from your perspective. And that is why we want to have sessions like this, but then also workshops. So in those workshops, we can talk about it and look at, hey, maybe we need to adjust this or do this, but having that parent input, because you are, a major stakeholder, that's only going to help this work as we look to improve it. So I just wanted to add that in there, and thank you. Okay. All right. I know we had a lot of different things in the chat. Just want you to know I'm recording everything, put it in there. Mrs. Taylor, before we go on, was there anyone that had a hand raised?
I didn't see anybody else. I was trying to capture stuff in the chat as well.
Okay.
It's
President Elliott.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, because I'm sitting here and I'm intimidated by the graphs. I'm intimidated by the language. And so I want to make sure that this language and that this information is simplified such that our parents really understand and they could use it in their care for their children and prepare their children. You went over my head. And so I just want, at the end of the day, our parents want our children to be educated and they want to be treated with dignity and respect. And I could say a lot more about this, but I won't. But I just make sure that we are communicated in a way in which our parents are able to receive it and that they're able to operationalize it for their families and for their children to be in our school district. Because like I said, it was over my head. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know that. And I will definitely make those revisions next time.
And like I said, that's what I love about this is this action planning time is that we're like, okay, we know we need to do this, so let's do this. So we talked about MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. Now I just want to ask you all, what do you remember? Is there anything that you can say, if I was to say, tell me something about what you learned here today? I know it was a brief time. Anybody, one parent want to give me something they learned about this? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Enjoy exclusive member.
Anybody?
We have a long way to we have a long way to go. This is just touching the surface that all parents, are having the same common goal is like President Cynthia Elliott said, is the communication part, and we want our kids to be educated. I think that's the biggest part I got out of there, that all the parents are on the same page with that, as far as getting your kids educated and the communication and having respect for parents when you're going to a school, trying to get information or trying to figure out what you need to do to make sure your kids are getting what they need to have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jones. Mrs. Smith, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the pyramid graphic, I completely agree with President Elliott that I couldn't understand the circles one, basically because those were all activities and I couldn't see the motion or where they were going. But the pyramid one, I thought was interesting because I thought that it gave an opportunity. I think it's Miss Curry put it in the chat, and I just want to say that I think that is the opportunity, is that if we as parents don't feel that we have trust and in the relationship, and that we're going to be and that when things go wrong, we're going to be listened to and supported, then that pyramid is a really great graphic to expand on, right? So what happens if I don't get the green things? Who do I go to? What's my process for getting that? What happens if I move up in the triangle? Who do I go to? What happens if I'm not seeing those things happening for my child? And what happens if I get to the red? Who's going to be there to support me, and how do I hold them accountable if they're not? And so I just thought that was a really great opportunity to take a graphic like that, and instead of making 100 others, let's always have our graphics tell us what we do if we don't get that expectation met.
Thank you. All right, any other hands raised, Mrs. Taylor, before we go on to Mr. Keating?
I didn't see any so
Right,
far,
Mr.
unless
Eagle?
I missed someone.
Mr. Howard Eagle, Mr. Eagle has his hand raised. And then we'll go to Mr. Keating after that. Mr. Eagle?
Yes, quickly, I just wanted to echo what President Elliott said about this being over people's heads. This is even over some educators' heads. But I heard some language, maybe it's not what was meant, but I heard some language is very important. I heard some language that's potentially alarming. And I put something in the chat about it. The statement was to the effect that support is needed not only for students who are struggling, but for students who need enrichment as well. That's a loaded statement. And there's information underneath that. And what I put in the chat is that all students need enrichment. But that's a dichotomy. Parents might not understand that that's a dichotomy that's being set up. And that kind of stuff we need to understand, because the suggestion is that there are students who are ready to go and they're not being challenged enough, make sure they get enrichment, but the others just help them struggle along. And that's a false dichotomy in my view as an educator. So that kind of thing needs to be really, really clear for parents, because I don't think most parents and even some educators really understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Eagle. I just want to preface by saying my intent was that a multi-tiered system of supports is for all students, and all means all. So if I didn't make that statement the way that I intended, that was my intention, is that a multi-tiered system of supports is for all students. Sometimes, I've heard people say that, when they hear multi-tiered system of supports, they gravitate towards, students who, might be the struggling learner, but that's not the intent. The multi-tiered system of supports framework is meant to strengthen all supports of those 6 components so that all students, the impact is for all students academically, behaviorally, and social emotionally. I do appreciate what you've just told me though, because I'm hoping that what I'm re-emphasizing is the message that I intended to make.
Right. Okay, so we know that is something that we definitely want to have more professional learning on. Thank you so much, Mrs. Montanaro, Mrs. Tyler, and thank you all for all the questions and everything, because that's only going to help us to improve. All right, so up next, and our time has just gone away from us. We've been having such a good dialogue here today. Wanted to have a conversation now, a roundtable discussion. So when we talk about roundtable discussions, this is a time for us to actually have a discussion around particular topics. And so Mr. Ryan Keating is the director of our social studies department. And what we want to start doing at our community action initiative meetings, especially when it comes to parents, and again, anything that we're talking about that's listed here is coming from what our parents have said they want to find more about or have a lack of information about. And we want to always make sure that we're doing better with our communication with parents. So Mr. Keating's from Social Studies Department. We just heard from our multi-tier systems of support department. We wanted to talk with him about social studies and about, what type of professional learning we want to, receive, and just about what's going on with our students. So Ryan graciously accepted, wanted to be here to talk with parents. So Ryan, just want you to, introduce yourself, and then we'll talk with you about, some courses and go from there and see where we go. We have about 15 minutes left, and I do want to give our survey to you before we go back to our general session. All right, so Mr. Keating.
Thank you, Kelly. And I'm really happy for the opportunity to be here. And when Kelly asked if I could join the call, I thought it was a really great opportunity for the social studies department to have an opportunity to work with folks in the community, because I do a lot of work working with teachers. And I think it really behooves us to, and it's really important for us to be able to share what we're working on with teachers, with parents. So I did have a little bit of an introduction, but I know that time's short. So what I'm really hoping for are some ideas as to what folks on this call would be interested in learning about from the social studies department. So I work with our K through 12 teachers, so the whole span, the whole continuum. It's a really interesting time in social studies because we have a lot of new expectations from the state. And so what a social studies classroom looks like, feels like, should change, and should have changed over the last several years. And we're still making progress on that. But I'm just happy to learn anything that folks in this room might be wanting to hear about and learn about in terms of what the social studies department is doing, or what a social studies class looks like, what curricular changes look like. So anyone that wants to offer some suggestions of things you might want to learn about, I'm happy to write them down and get to work.
If parents don't have anything to offer, I have a suggestion, but I'll wait if parents have stuff to say.
I'm sorry, my computer died and I missed the beginning of what we're supposed to be asking or talking about.
No problem. So I work with the social studies department. I'm the director of social studies. So anything, what I'm hoping to learn is anything in any way that folks in this room might want to interact with the social studies department, anything you might want to learn about anything that's happening in social studies classes, and anything to that effect.
When you say social studies, are you talking about just history in general, that just whole department, not the different grades? What do you?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question, Ms. Curry. Social studies is interesting because it's really history is, like, I think the biggest component, and that's what we all associate with social studies. But history or social studies is also economics, it's also civics and government, it's also geography, psychology and sociology fall under that umbrella. And so that's sort of what I'm hoping to hear about. If there's anything that folks might be interested in hearing from.
Debates, politics,
sure.
Economics, they are not getting any of what they need as far as if we're talking about just current social studies. These kids don't know about cryptocurrency. They don't know about anything that's going into their realm of living and their livelihood. They don't get textbooks. I don't know what y'all teaching these kids, but current teachings for their future is not happening. It's too much theory and too much of what their own translations of history. We are too culturally diverse to really go into things if y'all not going to tell them the truth. So I've always had a problem with social studies in any school district's curriculum because it only teaches one version of history. And I guess that would be my thing. I teach my kids different than what you teach your kids. In Atlanta, they did a whole thing about Christopher Columbus. Of course, I was the parent that was banned from the school because I didn't allow my kids to learn that. If you're not going to teach them right, don't teach them it. Teach them something else. Teach them how to spend money. Teach them how to our kids right now need to learn how to build businesses. They need to learn politics, law, government. Those are the things that are missing. Our generation, my generation, we weren't voters. We weren't any of that. We were into material things and we were into TV, fashion, sports. And that's the way we were taught we were going to get to the next level. We are dealing with a bunch of children now who are extremely awake, motivated, and wanting to do something. And because we are neglecting the social studies and their history of themselves and who they truly are and what they come from to keep other people's feelings happy, we are doing a major disservice in the social studies department for our children. So if I could advocate for anything, I'm not talking about critical race theory. I'm talking about the truth. And If you study like I study and you research like I research, you know the truth. So holding the school accountable and the school district on a lot of levels would be a lot easier to do if these kids knew how to fight, how to debate, how to communicate, what politics were, what the laws are against them. If the police do come into the school, what that means for them. A lot of it comes from social studies. That's my take. And I'll pause. I'm sorry.
All right. Who was next, Mrs. Taylor? And then I'm gonna
We had it's senior community chaplain.
Okay.
That was the first one.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I just have a question. I'm sorry, what is his name? I don't, because I'm not seeing him up on my screen.
Ryan.
Ryan Keating.
Oh, Ryan. Okay. When you say social study, I have a few things. When you say social studies department, is that at a particular high school or is that over on Broad Street? Like social studies department over what?
So thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, because that didn't come clear at all. It was like you said it and it was kind of quick at the end and it sounded muffled and I just didn't catch exactly who you are.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I do work over at Broad Street. So I work with all of our buildings, all of our teachers, elementary teachers teaching social studies, and then our roughly 120 social studies teachers throughout our secondary schools.
Okay, so you're not actually in the classroom per se then at any of the schools then? You're, like you said, you're over at Broad Street?
Yes, yep.
Okay, and then you are what, overseeing all of the social studies teachers throughout the district?
So I work to create essentially what the district guidance for the curriculum. So what is being taught, guidance on how to teach it, assessments of how we know what's being learned. And then I spend a lot of time with professional development. So teaching teachers how to do those things.
Okay, so I want to know what has been allowed up to this point. So exactly what is currently being taught. So your social studies over all of these teachers throughout the district, exactly what are they currently doing? And then my next question is, if there is something inside of that that is now at this point being questionable, part B to that question is, why was it allowed in the first place? Or I should say, why did you allow it in the first place? Because for me, we have to do this thing called accountability. So we were talking about the root. So if you're the person who is over this and there is things that are not going okay, it would not have just started yesterday, but on your watch, why are you allowing for it to take place or continue to take place? But let's back up and go to that first question is, as it current stands, what is being allowed currently to be taught in these classrooms? What are you allowing currently to be taught in these classrooms?
Thank you for the question. So we have guides for teachers K through 12 that lay out the resources that we have available to them. So this would be a good topic for so I think a larger dive, but just sort of at a glance, we have for our K through 6 classes, we're doing a pilot of a program called Inquire Ed, which is a program designed to expose students to multiple sources as opposed to one textbook, and let them essentially think about the topics through their own lenses and come to their own conclusions. So that's a pilot and something that we're trying out with our elementary teachers. In middle school, we use a program called from the Stanford History Education Group called Reading Like a Historian. And those are materials that go from before the founding of the pre-colonial America to current day. Those are also very text heavy. And the department, before I came on board about 2 years ago, did a project for each unit to make sure to create a lesson. So there's 16 of them to make sure that accurate and cohesive Black history is being taught in 7th and 8th grade. That was rolled out a couple of years ago. That's in the pacing guide. For 9th through 11th grade, we use a program called New Visions, which is from a school a charter network that put out a number of resources that are aligned to the new expectations from New York State. Those are used 9th, 10th, and 11th. So that's Global 1, Global 2, and US History and Government. And then in 12th grade, we have participation in government and economics. And we have in the middle of a 2-year partnership with an Action Civics group out of Chicago known as MICVA Challenge. And MICVA Challenge is an organization that has some really great materials that we're using in a number of our schools that essentially ask students, what's the biggest issue facing your community? And we've had students in 8th grade, this is a key component in 8th grade, as well as 12th grade, where our students investigate an issue in their community that they really care about, and they deliver speeches articulating that. If I have a moment after, I can put a link to some of those speeches from last year. We did a district civics showcase where a number of our students shared that. And then in economics, we use one of the programs that we're really heavily relying on is called EverFi, which is a financial literacy program that we use in 12th grade. So that's sort of the big picture of what we have. We also just purchased access for 11th grade for US History and Government on it's called Black History 365, and we have a resolution going to the board later this month to have a group of teachers start doing some curriculum writing with it to embed that into our 11th grade curriculum. So certainly I think that's a really good topic to dive much deeper into. And we've also partnered with the anti-racism curriculum project. We've done training with teachers and embedded them into our pacing guide, the scope and sequence, for their 4th grade anti-racism, 8th grade and 12th grade anti-racism unit. They just put out a 7th grade unit on enslavement in New York State that we're in the middle of running a 3-session professional development session with. And yeah, so thank you for that question. I hope that helps answer. That's certainly something we can dig into a bit deeper.
I just wanted to say before we go to our next parent comment that this is why we wanted to have Mr. Keating here. And then again, maybe we can offer some sessions where you go through the textbooks or what you're doing for each grade level. And so that's why it's important that he's here and getting the feedback from our parents as well too. All right, Mrs. Taylor, who's next?
I'm sorry, I took my hand down, but I was after senior community chaplain. I just wanted to say that I agree with everything that's been said so far, and it was interesting hearing what you're saying, Mr. Keating, about some of the curriculum changes. I, though, through my work, have found that there's a rich history here in Rochester that does not get taught in the schools along freedom seekers, the abolitionist movement, a lot of the African-American founding fathers of Rochester, the fact that Kelsey's Landing at Lower Falls was one of the last stops on the Underground Railroad. I'm currently, through my work, trying to bring some new curriculum into one of the area schools in a partnership pilot project with a teacher. But I think that if these types of things could be brought to our students, it would personalize it and help them relate to it better. I also think that, the teachers and all of us adults would benefit from learning more about the rich history that's right here in Rochester around Frederick Douglass, Anna Murray Douglass, and so many other people who I just don't see enough of that in the schools. And I think that a lot of these things that we talk about, they go over people's heads. They have so many other insecurities to worry about: food, housing, just day-to-day stretching a dollar, getting to school. And when you're in school, it's a competition, but I think they need to have something to help lift them up. And I really would like to see a focus on that in the schools. And then I did put in the chat that I have a concern about not all, but some of the teachers that are in the school district that are tenured, who you can't get out because of the, teachers union, which I mentioned before. But the issue is, the Rochester area Black Agenda Group, they made, with the whole statement that racism is a public health crisis, that hasn't stopped 2 years into a pandemic. It's always been a health crisis, and we're seeing it 24/7 on the news. Our kids are digesting that, and then they go into the schools. And I know everyone made a big push. Did the RCSD make any commitments to the Rochester Black Area Agenda Group's list of commitments? And what is being done around DEIJ, and that may not be your responsibility, for teachers in this district, not just to sit through a training and watch a couple videos, but to actually incorporate that equity lens into their teaching with our students, so that it becomes action, it becomes tangible, it's reflected in the way they're interacting with these students. And I don't feel concerned about sending my child to school, and she has to be the advocate in the class to push back. She shouldn't have to do that. She should be able to go there to learn. But see, I instilled my children with that spirit to be able to stand up when something's wrong. But she shouldn't have to stand up all the time. But she was out there marching and catching rubber bullets and tear gas when whatever happened with, Daniel Prude. So my kids aren't going to sit back and just let themselves be told or taught anything, but then they wind up being labeled as, disruptive, or they're a behavior problem, so I'm concerned about that in the schools as a Black mother, as a single mother. That's all I got.
Thank you.
How do us parents, how do us educated parents get the opportunity to implement curriculum into the classroom that we feel that should be in the classroom? How do we get our own curriculum implemented? How does that get approved?
That is a great question. So could you speak a little bit more about that?
Again, curriculum that we feel that is suitable for our own children, that we create, that we feel that should be in the classroom, that we collaborate and come up with on our own, that we find on our own, implement on our own, and then actually get that into a classroom, as opposed to whatever the state is telling you to provide, or whatever you're coming up with that you think that should be provided. How do the parents decide on what curriculum should be in the classroom and actually get it into the classroom, so that our children are not just being taught anything, but they're being taught things that we feel that they need? And I'm not saying that all of what you are doing needs to be excommunicated out of the district, but what I'm saying is there's so much that is not in there. And as opposed to waiting for you guys to do it, how come us educated parents that are out here can't do it and get it in the classroom?
So,
how do we do that? How do we get lessons that we create and we approve of as parents and get it into these classrooms?
Ryan, I'll answer this question.
Sure.
And then I want to have Mr. Eagle, then we got to wrap up because we're past our time. This is so good. I want to make sure too that I will be sending an email out to you. I have everyone's email address. But I think what you said, senior community chaplain, is something that we haven't really addressed. And so I typed it up. That's something that we want to check into. Maybe this is, something that we need to form. And that's why it's good that you're making that suggestion. So I think that
it's a very important suggestion, because nobody knows our children better than we do. Unfortunately, many of us have to work all day, but a lot of us, if we didn't have to work all day and there was something else that was paying for the overhead of everything we have to pay for, many of us would actually just be teaching our children ourselves. And being able to do that, you have to know the child in order to do that. And when I have 6, but when my youngest son was in school, and I had to keep pulling him from school to school to school to school, every school that I had to deal with, the conversations was, this is what I need you to do. This is how you have to do it. This is what you're going to do. and it will work. If you do what I tell you to do, it's going to work. But what I had was people who were determined that they knew a child that they didn't spit out, that they knew a child that they didn't live with, that they knew a child that they were not raising. And I'm standing here saying, I know this child, and I'm telling you exactly what you need to do, how you have to do it, how you have to say it, when you have to do it, in order for this to work, in order for my child to learn. We know our children more than anybody. So if we're telling you that this is what is going to work and this is how it has to be done, respectfully so, teachers should be complying to that. And so that's what I'm talking about, partnership in terms of, working together, But a lot of these teachers, they don't even communicate with us. Throughout the whole entire year, they don't even communicate. They don't know my child's birthday. They don't know what their favorite color is. They don't know who their siblings are. They not check. There's no birthday cards, no Christmas cards, no conversations on the weekend. No, none of that. So I come from a school district that happened to be very family oriented, was not the city school district, thank you, Jesus. But some of my poor children, unfortunately, had to go through the city school district. I thank God that I didn't have to go through it. But the school system that I came from, I had teachers that were taking me home. I was at school until the cows came home, until I was able to learn how to do stuff. I struggled with reading, and I had teachers that refused for me not to learn how to read. Right. They spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours teaching me this. We have to know who our children are. And so we have to be willing to put in that time. We have to be willing to build that relationship. And we know good and well that the majority of these teachers, that's not what it is. I remember the other day, because I got one that's still in the district, and I'm pulling in the parking lot, and I'm looking at teachers huffing and puffing, parking their cars, taking their time, getting out, because they don't want to be there. I get it. I get it, because sometimes I feel like that when I go to work.
Sorry.
But however,
I'm so sorry to have to interject. I'm sorry, Miss. Well, I'm sorry.
You can't act like that.
Senior Community Chaplain, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we have to get to our session because all of our sessions have closed. But I do want, there's a number, I wrote down everything, and I'm gonna go back and my team will look at the video to make sure we capture everything. This was powerful, powerful, powerful. I can't thank you enough. I just wanted quickly, Mr. Eagle, if you could very briefly, because we got to get back to that session to wrap up. This to me has truly just been an eye-opener. So I thank you so much. But I do have to wrap up to get back to our session. So Mr. Eagle, if you could say your comment in like a minute, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do it in a minute. I hope the answer to Chaplain Adams' question is that we will have further discussion just with this topic, that we will have extended dialogue, because it's obviously needed. But I wanted to more or less make an announcement, and this announcement about something that Dr. Black knows about, Mr. Keating knows about, Dr. Meyer Small knows about. I work with an organization that actually does anti-racist education in partnership with people at the Rochester Museum and Science Center. And we have a whole day-long program for students, parents, anybody who wants to come, but particularly for students. We met with Mr. Keating about this. We've been trying to get Rochester City School District students to come for a day-long session around, one parent mentioned local issues, anti-racism and local issues, local history. And we haven't been able to do it. We've had students from charter schools, private schools, all over, but nobody from the Rochester.
Zoom is getting ready to break out.
Okay, March 5th at 12 noon to 3 p.m.
I'll send that information out,
Mr. Anybody could come.
Recording in progress.
All right, well, welcome back. We'll give everybody about a minute to come back. I'm just going to put in our survey link in case you have not completed that survey. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you in just 1 minute. Okay. All right. So I put the survey link in there for everybody. So I just wanted to, again, thank everyone for being with us here today. I'm going to share my screen I know we went over, but it really was good. It was so good. So please complete our survey. Thank you for joining us. And we are going to have some remarks for a couple people once I finish this. Thank you for joining us for our Community Action Initiative meeting number 3, next step, setting the stage. I have to say, I think this meeting, we really, really broke a lot of ground. And join us for our next meeting, which is going to be on Saturday, March 12, 2022. And I would like to just turn this over. I know that we have Dr. Black, who's still joining us, but I know our board president, Commissioner Elliott, would like to say something. And I think we have board president, Cynthia Elliott, and then our Commissioner Malloy. I think I saw another commissioner here as well too, but we definitely want to make sure they talk, and our Dr. Black, if she would like to say anything before we close out. And I just want to say before they speak, that Parents in Action one, man, this was just fabulous. And I know in the other sessions, it was probably fabulous as well, but thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's go on. Okay, President Elliott.
Thank you so very much, Kelly, for organizing this. I want to make sure that as we are doing these kinds of initiatives, that they are genuine, that they are authentic, that they really are meeting the needs of our community, and our community actually becomes a credible partner to the Rochester City School District, that they're not wasting their time. As I said early in the meeting, we want to make sure that every child in our district is career and college ready. That is so important for me. That is so important for a number of us, and a number of us who are on our board, that every child, and particularly Black and brown children, are being educated. Now, we know that there's a disconnect, that the majority of the teachers and others in our district are white. So they come from a whole different worldview. The issue becomes when there's resistance. And that's what we've got to fight against, the resistance that we have in our district from teaching our children the way in which we know that our children need to learn, and the way in which the view or the worldview of which our children come from. That's what we have to fight in our district. I was in the parent breakout session, and as our parents were talking, I texted Adam Urbanski, who's the president of the teachers union. And I asked him if he would be willing to speak with parents about some of the issues that our parents are experiencing. And he is willing to do that. And so I'm going to ask Crystal Kelly if she can help me to arrange that we can have a conversation, our parents, with the president of the teachers union, so that the teachers union president can hear the concerns that our families have. And I heard this from one of our parents about parents being banned from our schools. Let me tell you, we will work on a policy that would eliminate our parents being banned from school. Who does such a thing? So I will be working on that, and I thank you for having me at this event. Know that I am working tirelessly in this role on behalf of our community and our parents and our students. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, President Elliott, and I will make sure I get on top of that. Commissioner Malloy.
Thank you so much. I just want to uplift everything that President Elliott has just said. I really cherish the opportunity today to talk with other parents and commiserate in some ways, but also learn about some of the actions taken and what we can do to further action in our district. So thank you so much for letting me be part of this today, and I'm looking forward to our next meeting.
All right. Dr. Black.
I won't belabor, but I charge and change and work accepted. I was able to be a part of the parent group. I heard a lot of information that I hear we have to act on. So I am very thankful to have been in the space to hear firsthand our experiences, and look forward to continuing to partner to make our experiences in service of our children that we get the privilege to serve better.
Okay. And I just want to say before I call on our final one, Mr. Mangione, I see you have your hand raised, that the thing about these community action initiative meetings, the outcome and what is supposed to happen is happening every time we meet. We dig deeper to finding out the root and what we need to change, what we need to rebuild, what we need to eliminate, what we need to, tweak a little bit. And I think that these meetings produce exactly what we want, what we need to improve, but also how we need to, as stakeholders, work together, and how we need to make sure that we're informing you and parents as well. Having meetings like this, you're informing us, everyone in all of our sessions. You're letting us see and know what we need to do to improve, and we appreciate that. But I want to thank all of the other people who were on this team. It's not just me, it's a whole group of us. Our Operation Fire, we have Tony Jordan, Willie Robinson, George Moses, Ricky Frazier. A lot of those men have been, going into schools and doing a lot. So I want to thank them. Our social emotional piece, Crystal Clark, Elizabeth Reyes, Keisha Holloman, Persephone Modesti. Modest, Persephone Modest. It's important for me to pronounce the name correctly. All of these people, and on when it comes to the Parents in Action, Michaela Wall, who's our clerk in the Office of Parent Engagement, who's very involved, and Lizelle Taylor, our community schools director. We have other teammates that couldn't be here today, but it's not just me. And our superintendent, Dr. Leslie Meyer-Small, she is the one that originally, approached me about doing this. So this was something that she wanted us to make sure, and that now that it's in action, and we know that she recently lost her mom. So if you could just, keep her lifted up, because we know that's not, that's very difficult for her and her family. That's why she couldn't be here today. So I just wanted to make sure I highlight that. And we have 2 minutes to go out. So, again, we know we have to work on our next time. Our next meeting is March 12th. We will send you that information out ahead of time, and we will probably be reaching out to a lot of you, especially our parents, for some other conversations that you wanted us to have. I did see that we had 2 people. All I'm going to ask is that you have 30 seconds, and then as soon as that you have your comments, we're going to leave out of our meeting. Okay? Thank you all so much. So I know Mr. Mangione, Ms. Curry, 30 seconds, and then we have to go.
So thank you. So from my breakout group, which I was in the social, emotional, and mental health breakout group. So what I heard a lot about is how individual, institutional, and structural racism is actually working within the district. And the last thing I wanted to mention that I was responding to is that there is the RAISE report, the Racial and Structural Equity Report, that took a look at all 9 areas of life commissioned by the City of Rochester and Monroe County. We've developed an educational recommendation piece for that. And just for those that were in the breakout session that I was in, take a look at some of the recommendations as it relates to mental health recommendations. And so hopefully we can, that may be one of our starting points at developing a comprehensive plan and or rejecting some of those recommendations that are in that report as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mangione. Ms. Curry, 30 seconds, then we gotta leave.
Really quick, being that this is my first meeting, I noticed that there were a couple of different community groups in here, as opposed to me going rogue. If you guys could send out information as to how us parents, us normal parents, join into these groups and become participants as opposed to listeners and giving you suggestions. I have a ton of parents who have backed this last movement. We kind of went rogue. So catch us now so that we don't give me some information so that we could be a part of what you got going on, and then prove to us that it ain't just about y'all and y'all narrative. And that's what I'll end with. And I'll put my phone number in here.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate everybody. We want you to have a fabulous Saturday. We just went 1 minute over. So we apologize for going 1 minute over, but we thank you so much. Have a fabulous, fabulous day.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
No, it don't let me do it. Well, there's still people in here. The
Ms.
gentleman
Curry?
for fires, yeah, I can't comment.
Are
in
you
this-
able? Why don't you just tell me your phone number and I can capture it for you?
Absolutely. 770
Uh-huh.
203 7689. And then my email is L as in Lisa, K is in kite,
I got it here too.
E is in Edward, I is in igloo, S is in Sarah, H is in ham, A is in apple, 151, Keisha 151 at Gmail. Y'all, I'm fiery. I'm just saying. So if you could find a way to get us, I mean, we passionate. And I know that I listen to everything in all the groups. We're passionate. And I think we are the parents that are being pushed aside. So I appreciate parents who can go out there and get in there, but don't forget we back here. Don't forget we a lot more knowledgeable and we got a lot more inside information because our kids the one being bullied. Our kids the one being left behind. So just remember, reach out to us. We the ones who need the help and we willing to go. I'm willing to stand with the picket sign. If ain't nobody else gonna do it, I'll do it. I'll put the target on my back if y'all need somebody to run out there and act crazy. I am the past. These children are the future. If y'all lead with that and teach these kids that, I don't care if you've been in jail. I don't care what you've done. These kids is facing something enormous. And I feel like we're moving too slow. I'm just gonna be real with y'all. And I thank y'all so much for having me in y'all meetings today.
All right, thank you so much.
Have
And
a
there
good
was a
one.
thing in there for plaque, so that's a parent, one of our parent groups. Feel free to join that. I know they're restricting people, but they want people to join.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
If our team members could kind of stay on, just wanted to share some things with our team members.
Y'all did a good job.
Thank you. If everyone could dismiss themselves, just want to talk to our team.
Would you like me to leave?
Oh, no, you're part of the team. So we just asked anyone that, wasn't part of our planning team, if you could, leave our session now. Thank you as they're leaving out.
Get out.
So we'll just start, removing because some people may be hard for them to